Hello, this is a channel about engines. Today the OM442 engine will be repaired. The diameter of the pistons on this engine is 130 mm. This engine is removed from the Setra 315 bus. Anyone who is interested in what happened to this engine and how I disassembled it can see the first part about this engine. Link to the first episode in the description under the video. In this series, we will begin to collect it, then there will be more series, there will be painting and launching on the table. What have I already done with this engine? I washed it first in diesel fuel, then in a jet-type car wash with powder, soda and engine cleaner. Then I blew it with compressed air and now it looks like this. Now I will clean the cylinder block from old gaskets, old sealant, rust and old flaking paint. This is necessary for further painting. I will work with attachments for an angle grinder, attachments for a drill. I have a sandblaster, but there is no way to use it yet, as there is a lot of preparatory work to be done. It is necessary to make plugs for all seats so that the sand does not spoil them. I will do all this in the future, but now there is no time for that. I prepare the block, and then I will wash all the other parts, connecting rods, pistons, covers, and so on. I washed some details and will now show how it was. For protection I use a respirator and a protective mask. I cleaned the cylinder block and wiped it with a rag and solvent. This is how it looks now. What's my next challenge? Next, I will prepare the screw thread. The cylinder block is fully prepared for assembly. We begin to assemble the engine. The first thing we will supply is a heat exchanger. We see that I removed the radiator, washed it, blew it with compressed air, and now I will install it in its place. I smear the sealant on the heat exchanger body, smear the sealant on the block. I take the gasket and install the heat exchanger. Installed a heat exchanger. I tightened the mounting bolts and again checked the tightness of the radiator mounting bolts. Also checked the tightening torque of the oil nozzles. And checked the tightening torque of the oil channel plugs. Now I will install the camshaft bushings. I checked that the bushings are of a standard size, and not a repair one. Now I align the hole in the oil channel and hammer in the bushing. hammered the camshaft bushings into the block. Now I check the oil channels. On the first bushing, we see a channel through which oil flows to the high-pressure fuel pump. And we look at the second oil channel. We see it also coincided. Oil flows through it to the camshaft. I hammered the camshaft bushings into the block. Now I turn the block over and install the cylinders. I install the cylinders from OE, and the elastic bands under the cylinders of L-ring are the best rubber bands in my opinion. We will install the old pistons. They have small scratches. But the owner of the bus did not want to buy new ones. But these pistons will still work. Now I will measure the height of the cylinder seat. It should be 9.92 millimeters. I will also measure the thickness of the adjusting rings. Their thickness should be 0.15 millimeters. Then, I will measure the protrusion of the cylinder above the block. Cylinder 9.92 millimeters. Ring 0.15 millimeters. Now I measure all cylinders and all rings. Installed all the cylinders without rubber bands, and now I will clamp each cylinder and measure the protrusion of the cylinder above the block. We clamp the cylinder, adjust the dial indicator, and look, we see that we have block 0, and when we start it on the cylinder, the arrow shows 0.08 of a millimeter. 0, 8. And so we check in 3 planes. I have already checked this cylinder. The protrusion of this cylinder above the block is 0.08 millimeters. This is the norm. I will show that if you measure an unclamped cylinder, the arrow shows 0.13 of a millimeter. Clamp the second cylinder. We measure. Block is 0, cylinder is 9 acres. In the second plane, we look, the block is 0, 9, 0, 9. In the third plane we look, 0, 9, 0, 9. This cylinder has a 0.09 mm protrusion above the block. I checked the rest of the cylinders in the same way. I checked all the cylinders. All the protrusions are 0.08 or 0.09 millimeters. It is very good. Now I take out the cylinders, place them in order. I will not confuse them in places. I install new rubber bands and put the cylinders back into the block. installed the rubber bands in the block and installed the rubber bands on the cylinders. Now I lubricate everything with a special assembly paste and install the cylinders. I installed all the cylinders. Now I will turn the block over and install the crankshaft. Before I install it, I need to prepare it. Now I will clamp it in the machine, remove the counterweights and polish the crankshaft. The shaft has bbeen polished, now it looks like this. I measure the connecting rod journals. The diameter is 89.99 millimeters, and all crankshaft connecting rod journals are of this size. Now we measure the main journals of the crankshaft. We see a diameter of 103.98 millimeters. All are of this size. Our crankshaft is in very good condition. I also removed the thrust ring under the oil seal. Later I will install a new one. This is how the shaft arrived and lay down in one shot, and now I go back a little and show what else I was doing with the shaft.
Before installing the crankshaft, it is necessary to install the tappet, then it will be inconvenient to install them. We use old tappet, but they are in excellent condition. I oiled everything and install the tappet. I installed the crankshaft. I have not fully tightened it yet, only with a pneumatic pistol. The shaft turns very well, very smoothly. I also want to remind you that this crankshaft was made in 1990. It is already 30 years old, but it is in perfect condition. Just unbelievable. After 30 years of operation and several million kilometers, it has a standard size. Only in Russia this shaft drove 1 million kilometers. How many in Germany is unknown. Now I will tighten the main bolts and install the side bolts. The crankshaft is now fully tightened. Main bolts and side bolts are tightened. This is how it spins now. Rotates gently. I can feel the oil holding it. Everything is fine. Now I measure the longitudinal movement of the crankshaft. The maximum allowable value is 0.15 millimeters. I take the 0.15 probe and insert it and see that the shaft has stopped moving. This means that the longitudinal movement of the shaft is 0.15 millimeters. This is within the normal range. All is well. Now I will install the camshaft and will deal with the pistons. We combine the labels of the gas distribution mechanism. There is a mark on the crankshaft, 2 units on the camshaft. Altogether it rotates like this. I immediately install the plug. I will anoint with such glue. Now I will deal with pistons and connecting rods. Here I have the pistons. I took them off the connecting rods, washed them and put them in the box, but I haven't cleaned the carbon deposits yet. And here I have connecting rods. They were given to replace the bushings and bore the bushings. I have not looked at them yet. Now I will unpack them and see how they were repaired. I put the connecting rods and pistons by numbers, checked how the finger enters the bushing, everything turned out fine. Now I am assembling the piston, connecting rod, and then I will clean the grooves for the piston rings from carbon deposits. Now I need to clean the carbon deposits from the grooves. I will do this with an old ring. I broke it, sharpened it a little on emery, and like this I remove carbon deposits. I prepared the piston. Now I will install the rings. One piston is ready. I cook the other 7 in the same way. Cleaned all pistons and fitted all rings. I will now install the rod bearings. Then I will install the pistons in the cylinders.